Good morning. Everyone awake now? Oh, wait. Okay, so as he said, is this a little too loud? Am I too loud? Am I good? So I'm Dean Tribble of Agoric, as he said, and welcome to the last segment of chain abstraction here. I'm going to talk about what we bring to chain abstraction from the Agoric platform. Now, first though, so Agoric is a layer 1 blockchain built on Cosmos SDK, Comet BFT, that battle-tested proof-of-stake platform with IBC native, so easy access to everything that's reachable across the interchain, and to bring smart contract programming in JavaScript. And it's not just JavaScript the language, but JavaScript is the #1 language with the #1 development environments because it enables component frameworks. It enables easy extension and growth and integration of other systems. And so it is used to orchestrate trillions of dollars every day of systems in the mainstream economy. That's the technology that we now bring to Web3, right? Okay. So we have, as a group, succeeded, right? We've got at some very important milestones on the way to integrating blockchain into the world of the world's economy. We've got layer 1s, we've got interoperability, we've got layer 2s, we've got modular. We have succeeded in making hundreds or now thousands, as people are rolling out these modular systems, of these independent blockchain assets and services on the different chains. And with interoperability technology, right, we're able to connect them. And that is something that, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, people didn't believe was possible, and now we've got that broadly connected, where new chains are coming online. With the success of the modular thesis, we've got smaller chains coming online more quickly, all with some level of connectivity to the rest of the world. And that's resulted in, $2.5 trillion plus of liquidity across all these different chains. Yes, a big chunk of that is Bitcoin, but as of course you saw people talking earlier, Bitcoin being a asset that can underpin lots of other connected chains is a very important element of a future economy. Okay, but we are not done, right? This success of modular brings us a new era, a new set of challenges that we are now tackling, and that's where chain abstraction comes in, right? So we've got this chaos of all of these chains. We've got thousands of chains that will all be clamoring for users' attention, solving bits and pieces of this puzzle. And what that does is it results in fragmented liquidity. It gets you no clear entry point, right? For a user coming in, for a new developer coming in, for a Web2 party coming in, thousands of entry points is equivalent to 0 entry points. Screw this, I'm going to go back and use Robinhood, right? That's not a solution to people. This is like the early days of the internet, where there was lots and lots of independent services you could go to, but you could not use a consolidated app, as I said, to order a ride or order a hamburger to be delivered, right? And so that results in very poor user experience. Right now in Web 2, if you've got USDC burning a hole in your pocket and you want to go get staked TIA, Celestia token, which was one of the recent big launches that was part of that last phase of modular, turns out that requires you to do 3 signatures on 4 or 5 different chains, and it's a 2-3 hour sort of ordeal to hand carry your token over hill and dale, cross a few bridges, right, in a bucket, in order to then go and stake it at the chain of your choice, right? And so that poor user experience means that it's accessible to a small number of people, but these are not solutions that would be accessible to the rest of the world. And so what do users actually want, right? Well, they want seamless access to all the services and all the assets independent of their blockchain. Like I asked earlier, right, when you last ordered a car with Uber or Lyft, or when you ordered a hamburger, did you care about what cloud service they were running on, or whether they were using Shopify or WordPress or whatever the heck it is? The answer is no, you didn't care at all. Users don't care about the infrastructure challenges that we have. What we need to do is provide the user experiences they want, right? And that's seamless access to all these things independent of the chain infrastructure underneath. And they want simple, singular entry points, right? They want an application that they use as application. It's not first go get this wallet, then go get this thing, then put your money here, then go through that exchange, and then onboard this way, and finally use an application. They've got an entry point, they've got an app, they want to be able to use it, right? And they want those simple experiences that span chains, right? Users, again, they're not going to care about Solana versus Cosmos versus Agoric versus Osmosis or whatever. They just want to be able to, buy that token, buy that NFT, participate in that airdrop. Okay, and so that's, starting from the crypto chaos that we are currently at, which is a success, right? Getting to the point where all of these projects are starting to launch, where that modular and interoperability has gotten us to, is a big win. But that is the chaos that we now need to sort out in order to provide these uniform chain abstraction, user scenarios in order for us to succeed as an industry going out to mainstream. Okay, so let's take a simple example. Now, at last chain abstraction day, I went through a code example of that USDC burning a hole in your pocket, and you want to get staked TIA. So you've got staked TIA, and now you've realized that there's an airdrop from Stride coming, nice juicy airdrop that you want to participate in, and so you would like to push button and move from your staked TIA that is all locked up, but you don't care, and have that turn into liquid stake TIA on Stride, so you can be in that airdrop. And somewhere in there, how does that work? Well, so that's what I want to be able to do, is go from the one side, this is the user's perspective. That's what I got, that's what I want, right? Very straightforward, push the button and make it happen. Okay, so that means I need to undelegate my TIA, so I have to go to a user interface, click that. Oh, wait, now I go to the wallet and I approve that. Right? Okay, now I have to wait 21 days. So 21 days, all right, I'll put a reminder on my calendar, and only after that 21 days, if I'm still in town and not on vacation or at a conference or preparing for a talk or whatever it is, now I will go to the TIA app and I will transfer my TIA over to the Stride chain, whatever, however that works. And I have to approve that in my wallet, which thankfully in this scenario I can use just the one wallet, but if that was on another chain, then I have to use both, MetaMask and Kepler or Leap Wallet or what have you, right? But now I've approved that, so the transfer will happen, and now 20 seconds later, 5 minutes later, 15 minutes later, I don't know, at some time later, I will then go back into the application and say, yes, please stake it, yes? Yes, I also need Stride token in order to pay the fees in order to make this happen, right? So I have, you're right, I have oversimplified this for your convenience, right? How many users do you think are going to do that? How many users are going to say, yeah, okay, so the driver I want, I'm going to pick my driver, that's the one I want dropping off my hamburger. And use this charging mechanism. Yeah, no. People don't do that, right? They want that simple thing of, I got this, push button, and get me that thing over there, right? Okay, so let's talk about, and that liquid staking, it had to be approved as well, yes, and needed the fees. Okay, so today's UX, as you can imagine, is cumbersome. And it's not only the UX, turns out the developer experience in order to produce even this stuff is really hard, right? What you've got is a bunch of asynchronous services, a bunch of asynchronous assets, and you need to program across those. And that's what we call orchestration, right? There are orchestration programming languages in Web 2. The number one orchestration language that orchestrates trillions of dollars every day is JavaScript in, Salesforce, in Bloomberg terminals, controlling all this trading. That's how people wire together all these asynchronous systems in order to deliver consistent, straightforward user experiences. And that's the kind of thing we need, and it doesn't necessarily, there are different approaches, that's great, we can talk about those offline, but this is the thing that we need to do, is we need the capabilities to build user-friendly apps that coordinate these assets and services asynchronously, independent of the blockchains they're on, right? Okay, so, I always like to give a code example. I was one of the early cypherpunks. Cypherpunks write code, and that makes it really more concrete, right? So, let's start by the first miracle of the platform. And this is all going to be in JavaScript. This is code that would run in a smart contract on the Agoric blockchain, which is connected with IBC and GMP and all the various other connectivity things growing over time to lots of other blockchains. So here, starting from Celestia, which is just a JavaScript object that gives me access to the services on the Celestia blockchain that are reachable over IBC, I'm going to reach out and say, well, in this particular case, I want to grab my main account, right? I've got an account that has my staked Celestia in it, right? And I'll come back to that in a moment. And then I'm going to reach out to Stride, and it turns out, this is get or make. So I'm going to reach out to Stride, and I'm going to make me a new account in order to do liquid staking, right? And I'm just calling it that for my convenience. And what's going to happen is over IBC, I'm sending a message, and what I get back is a newly created account on Stride on behalf of this user. And so the first miracle here is that, and that comes from IBC, it comes from interchain accounts that the IBC people drove out there, and that's just an amazing bit of technology as part of the interoperability. It's really nice to be able to build on that, and that lets us connect to all these different chains. But the platform absorbs that up very nicely, where the first step here is I can await that, right? So I reach out, it might take 5 seconds, one block. It might take 5 minutes because Stride was busy Stride was busy because it was overwhelmed by how well it was doing. But eventually the answer comes back. And what I've got here is a single operation in the blockchain that is now multi-block in that spans multiple blocks, right? You can't do any multi-blockchain activity without it being something that spans multiple blocks. So we just absorb that naturally in the standard JavaScript execution model, where I can reach out, and what I get back is I'm just going to wait, and when the answer comes back, then this code will proceed, right? So I waited to get the Celestia one, came back, then I went on to the next one, I waited to get the Stride one, and I could use the concurrency stuff in JavaScript to do those simultaneously. It doesn't, that's beyond the scope of this. But so that's the first miracle, is wait for that to happen and then react to it, proceed once it has. And then that ICA Stride there is I get back a JavaScript object in JavaScript that millions of programmers understand, that is the only object on the planet running inside of this blockchain that can reach out and control that newly created LST account on Stride that I created on behalf of the user that made this request. Right, so what I've got is simple access control in an object-oriented fashion, where I've got this object in this smart contract that controls that remote account. And I could trade it to something else, I could hand it off to another contract, I could invoke a library that used it on my behalf, all those kinds of things, and know that all of the security was maintained, and the only thing that can control the assets on that new account is this smart contract here and what it allows to access. So that turns out to be really nice. All right, let's proceed. So, what I'm going to say is ask that account on Celestia, because remember I said that one ICA Celestia, that already existed and had my staked Celestia on it. So I'm going to ask it, what delegations have I done? What staking have I done with those assets? Get that information back. I have to do that because that's the way Cosmos works, so I have to reach out and ask it, and we can use ICQ or whatever infrastructure lets us do that query from the smart contract, pull that information back. And once that information comes back, right, once the await is succeeded, the answer comes back to this smart contract running on chain. A few blocks later, now it's going to say, okay, all those delegations, I want to undelegate them, right? And there might be more than one, and this might turn into multiple requests depending on the underlying infrastructure. You don't care, it's just an abstraction. It's part of this nice orchestration API. Reach out and undelegate all of those and wait for that to finish. Right, so if that finishes in one block, great. If it takes 5 minutes, that's just fine. Undelegation, that takes 21 days, right? Because this is bonded tokens inside of the staking infrastructure. So this will sit there, and 21 days later, in most Cosmos chains, and in some chains it might be 2 weeks, some chains it might be a day, whatever it is, but 21 days later in the Celestia case, this await here will proceed, and this operation in the smart contract will proceed, right? So we will then do the next thing, similar pattern, reach out, find out how much I got, right? I had a bunch of delegations. Yes, the total of this should add up to that, but let's find out. You reach out, how much do I have, how much TIA do I have that I can use? And I'm now gonna, once I know what that answer is, transfer it over to my Stride account. And this is transferring it from ICA Celestia, from that account that I have the unique control over here on Celestia, over to that newly created account that I created up on line 2 there, on Stride. So I'm just taking, this smart contract, completely without my, having to interact with it, created an account on Stride, undid my staking, sent it over to the account it controls on my behalf on Stride, and once that finishes, it reaches out to Stride and invokes a custom operation, available again over IBC, to do the liquid staking. And so 21 days later, after I started all of this, the liquid staking on my behalf happens. I have my tokens all liquid staked, and all of my airdrop participation in the Stride airdrop will begin automatically for me on my behalf. And all this happened with one action, one approval on the way. Have I run out of time? Have I already taken my 15 minutes? Oh, okay, good. Okay, so what are some key things? That multi-block, that async await, that's a unique feature of the Agoric. These are unique features of the Agoric execution platform of being able to bring true JavaScript programming and true sort of durable, persistent, long-lived processes for smart contracts is that ability to do that a single operation that spans not just a few blocks, but can span 21 days covering your unstaking and run consistently over time, reliably, even in a contract that might get upgraded during that process, right? 21 days is a really long time. You might want to fix bugs, add features, whatever it is. Having that be able to coexist with these long-lived processes is fabulous, right? It lets you have contracts that are truly reactive, right? Reach out, ask a question. How many delegations are there? Oh, there's too many. I'm going to break that up and do that over time. Or that's fine. Let me do one request. Let me respond to the conditions that I see on chain asynchronously over time. Being able to, ask for something to happen, and then when it comes back, the contract reacts to that is really, really powerful and unique. And then finally, and this is where it gets back to that power of JavaScript. The reason why JavaScript is the #1 programming language on the planet is because it's easy to do these frameworks, and it's easy to do frameworks that are extensible by third-party developers, right? So, timers is one of the simple extensions that folds neatly into this async thing. Instead of waiting for that guy to respond, I will wait for I know the unstaking time is 21 days. I'll wait for 21 days and then start asking, so are you done yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Right? I will ask in a exponential decay, and I can hide that nicely behind a library so that, so I can extend the system. I can extend the system with timers where I start something, and instead of waiting for a response, I'm just waiting for 3 minutes, right? And it's straightforward to do all of that on-chain without a bunch of off-chain services, So that kind of asynchronous integration of third-party libraries gives you vastly improved extensibility over what you can do in other things as part of this overall orchestration API. So that means that, same way that I add timers, adding over this communication mechanism at use of GMP. Reach over IBC, out to Axelar, use Axelar's GMP to be able to reach Filecoin or ETH or what have you. Reach over to other systems to be able to access Hyperlane and provide these abstractions so that contracts can smoothly reach out over Hyperlane or Axelar off to Cello or Filecoin or what have you, is really, really powerful. It enables developers to keep enhancing the infrastructure that we're all building on, and that's how you get sort of that exponential growth that you saw in JavaScript, in NPM and React and all these things, right? So we want the same thing in Web3, which is what we're going for. Okay, so orchestration is something that leverages all the stuff that people have already built, right? Existing native tokens, liquid stake tokens, LP positions, all that sort of thing. Those are those are stuff that are easy to absorb into orchestration. The services, the lending protocols, right? The infrastructure, all of those are things that they benefit from having more services that can use them, right? Assets, if you can move them around easily and automatically, that's more powerful. Lending platforms, they want to be able to programmatically lend a token over here, bring it over to some other service in order to spend it. That makes it more valuable to them. All the things that we're already building that are reachable by any of these interoperability protocols become part of orchestration and benefit from it. And many of them can use it in order to enhance their services. And so we will be doing in Q2 a hackathon focused on orchestration, right? With prizes that are specifically around building cross-chain applications, either for existing services or for new applications with, and it's a virtual hackathon spread over 45 days so people can really do some focused, valuable this new class of application. And so we've got, stablecoin yield aggregators people are working on where you can have something would dynamically move assets among yield opportunities for stablecoins on different chains, right? It's not just about being able to have one chain that can do some things. It's about having use cases that span chains. We've got where you can lock stuff up on the chain it's on, rather than having to bring it over to our chain, have it be collateral there, you'd be able to lock stuff on their local chain and then mint on a third-party chain. So lock, do YDX on its chain and then mint on some other chain or something like that, right? Staking managers, right? You saw the code to be able to do unstake and then 21 days later do something else. You could also have it redeem rewards, restake half of it, take another half to build up a position of a new token, go off and buy Bitcoin, pay out in order to be able to cash out in USDC, whatever it is, right? Being able to have these rich things, much richer programmatic things that leverage and use the assets on the chains that we've built is really, really empowering for developers. And then finally, swap maximizer, right? If you can asynchronously swap locally, do you really care, if it's going to be one block later? Do you really care if it's assets that are local or if you're just reaching out and trading on osmosis? What you care about is the accessible liquidity, not the liquidity that happens to be on the same chain that you're executing on. And so being able to have things that are accessible across the interchain be thought of as the economy that you can reach, that is, again, very empowering. Now, so these are all things where people are already building stuff that's part of part of orchestration, that is part of these chain abstraction visions. What you need is this orchestration to be able to pull them all together to deliver these simple user experiences for folks. So please come help join building the multi-chain. Come orchestrate the vision that you have for the future here. So thank you very much.